Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're jumping straight into what is absolutely one of the deadliest and, honestly, most fascinating maritime mysteries in all of naval history. We're going to dig into the historical military records, we'll look at the terrifying physical science of our oceans, and figure out exactly why some of the most massive vessels ever built literally just vanished without a trace. Let's get right into it.
306. That is the staggering number of crewmen and passengers who vanished. Poof. Not a single distress call, nothing, in March of 1918. 306 lives entirely swallowed by the sea, leaving literally zero survivors behind to tell the tale.
Which brings us to the ultimate investigative question for our explainer today. How does a 500-foot steel giant just completely disappear? I mean, a ship of that magnitude, heavily fortified and built specifically for the brutal rigors of wartime logistics, it doesn't just evaporate, right? But, well, that is exactly what happened.
Section 1. The vanishing USS Cyclops. A routine voyage.
So, looking at the official military records, the USS Cyclops was this massive cargo ship, and she was loaded to the absolute brim with incredibly heavy manganese ore from Brazil. She made a totally routine stop in Barbados in March of 1918 and was headed straight north for Baltimore. She was supposed to arrive on March 13th, but she never did. And to make matters a bit worse, the ship actually reported engine trouble earlier in the voyage. So between that super heavy cargo and the mechanical issues, her vanishing became the deadliest non-combat loss in United States Navy history.
And to this day, nobody really knows what happened in those final hours. Even with massive, exhaustive search efforts by the Navy across this huge stretch of ocean, not a single piece of wreckage, no debris, not even a life raft was ever found. It just left behind this eerie silence that has seriously puzzled naval historians for over a century now.
Section 2. A doomed class of ships. A chilling pattern. Now this is where a pretty chilling pattern starts to emerge across history. More than 2 decades after the Cyclops disappeared in 1918, 2 of its sister ships, the USS Proteus and the USS Nereus, vanished in nearly the exact same way during World War II. Think about that for a second. 3 massive ships of the exact same class, all just swallowed by the sea.
Let's actually break down the records on these sister ships. Both the Proteus and the Nereus vanished just weeks apart in late 1941. Both had departed from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and both were carrying incredibly heavy cargoes of bauxite. With their disappearances, another 119 souls were taken into the abyss. You can really start to see how the exact same structural footprint and these extremely heavy cargo loads connect all 3 of these historic tragedies.
Section 3. The Bermuda Triangle myth, fact versus fiction.
Now, pop culture obviously loves to lean heavy on the myth of the Bermuda Triangle, right? Blaming supernatural forces or, alien abductions for the total lack of wreckage. But oceanographers and naval historians have systematically debunked all of that with hard physical reality. Instead of aliens or the supernatural, the real scientific focus points squarely at mechanical failures, severe weather, and structural erosion.
Section 4. Enter the rogue wave, a natural phenomenon.
Meet the rogue wave. What's crazy is this phenomenon was only officially recognized by the scientific community in the 1990s. Rogue waves are essentially towering walls of water, sometimes reaching up to 100 feet tall, that are born when multiple storm systems converge and amplify. It's kind of like that splash effect you get in a bathtub when ripples collide. But, imagine that happening in the open ocean, creating a lethal, towering wall of water right in front of you.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the danger here, consider this. A normal, severe storm wave might top out around 10 to 12 meters, but a rogue wave? That can reach a towering 30 meters. That is literally the height of a 10-story building, just appearing out of nowhere in the open ocean. So what exactly happens to a 500-foot ship when it meets a 30-meter wave? Well, oceanographer Dr. Simon Boxall from the University of Southampton explains it perfectly. He points out that if a large ship gets caught between wave crests that are, say, 200 to 300 meters apart, the lack of support right underneath the middle of the hull will literally break the vessel in half. And a ship that snaps in two, it sinks in minutes. No time for a distress call, no time to launch a single life raft. Section 5. Solving a century-old mystery, a deadly combination. Okay, so Rear Admiral George Van Doors provides an absolutely crucial missing link straight from the Naval Archives. He noted that these specific aging ships were being internally weakened by their own cargoes of acidic coal. Over time, this acid severely eroded their longitudinal structural beams. So, structurally speaking, these ships were basically ticking time bombs.
And when you bring all these historical and scientific data points together, the mystery really starts to unravel. You've got structural vulnerabilities from the acidic coal eroding the beams. You've got this immense cargo weight pressing down on that already weakened frame, plus those known mechanical issues. Add in the very high probability of a massive 100-foot rogue wave, and what do you get? A perfectly deadly combination. A compromised ship hits a rogue wave, snaps right in half, and just plummets to the deep ocean floor.
And that, right there, is why, as Dr. Boxall emphasizes, the academic community completely dismisses the Bermuda Triangle legend. There's just nothing uniquely supernatural about the area. Most of these disappearances trace back to the harsh physical reality of severe weather, structural fatigue, or just human error. And actually, today, satellite imaging proves this by actively detecting real rogue wave activity in the region. So the myth hangs around purely because of public fascination. But honestly, the science is crystal clear.
But, beyond the hard science and the naval mechanics, we absolutely have to remember the human element at the heart of this explainer. The 306 men of the Cyclops, sailors and civilians alike, they are still honored today. In 2018, a full century after they vanished, the U.S. Navy held a memorial to commemorate their sacrifice, and their names remain permanently etched on the World War I tablets at the Brookwood American Cemetery over in England. They're gone, but for sure not forgotten. As we wrap up this explainer, I do want to leave you with a pretty chilling thought. We've used science to understand exactly how these vessels were likely destroyed, but the actual wreckage of the Cyclops, the Proteus, and the Nereus, it remains totally undiscovered. So if the vast, unforgiving ocean can completely swallow a 500-foot steel ship,